You all ready to join me today in our trip to outer space?
Yeah.
Albert Shivers.
The Matrix doesn't happen.
That's very true.
Come along quietly or not.
Goodbye, Whips.
As I was about to try to bribe
From Albert
the
Shivers.
mistress of the fading light,
They don't have to like it.
they're trying to put a caravan.
The general concept is that creativity flourishes in an atmosphere of freedom.
Okay, so we're rolling now.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, we're rolling now.
Merry Christmas.
And we're talking Christmas.
Yeah. So Merry Krampus. Merry Cheesecake, I always say. No, I replace Christmas with cheesecake usually for most songs. But,
Why?
because it amuses my family. Merry Cheesecake. I just, It started with, me wanting a cheesecake. So there's a song. Have yourself a merry little cheesecake. I think that's what it was I was thinking about one, and I really wanted one. And I asked my mother for one. She made me one. And it stuck. So for me, everybody has their own personal feelings, little warm fuzzies that you get from this time of the year. Mine is cheesecake. I dig it. And I hate cream cheese. Go figure. Anyway, so.
Does she make just plain cheesecakes? Or does she put stuff on it?
Every kind of fucking cheesecake. She makes any kind of cheesecake you can throw at her. Yeah. Yeah, she's great.
So you just went to like a Krampus festival, was it?
Yeah, out in Lehighton.
Okay, I didn't realize it was that
like
close.
it was like a Cuddy Krampus fest. It was cute. Yeah, it was fun.
Were there a lot of like people dressed up as
Yep.
Krampus?
Yep, there was. I knew he'd come around eventually, those who would know me would say I probably am a little too wrapped up in cultural things and cultural stuff, so why disappoint them now? We're in need of a Krampus.
Yeah.
You could say that we're just digging around looking for new things to be into, or old things, as it were.
So how big was the festival in Lehighton?
How big was it?
Like,
it reminded you of like one of your local affairs where you go out and they rent out a field and make a little stage, and there's a bunch of places that you can buy stuff and crystals and incense, and there's the one woman in the back there that just looks like from Lehighton, who just is selling her sheets and shit, like a flea market-y. It was nice though. Yeah, you got a bunch of guys playing crazy old tunes that you would have appreciated. Not exactly well, but it didn't matter,
right?
Because that's Krampus. Krampus is like a big flat or out of tune horn and some bells, and doesn't need to be perfection. There's a guy with a giant saxophone that was all lit up with Christmas lights. It was really nice, And since I couldn't make it to Austria, I did this. So.
Is that where the big one is? Because I've seen footage of like tons of people dressed up as Krampus, like marching.
They're real there. I mean, I don't know where in America they're really letting it ham up. Probably out in New York or somewhere like that. But or maybe someplace like where they have the Santa Claus festival out there, where all the Hollanders in New York State, and I can't remember which area of New York it is, but it's really nice. You go out there and there's the Santa Claus character, and they do a big parade, and there's a lot of crazy characters you probably wouldn't recognize usually, like the what the hell is it called? The weird horse head ghost. I wish I could remember what it's called. Starts with Mary, Mari, Lude. Mary Lude.
Okay.
Just another creepy, character from the mythology of this period of time, Yuletide of old Europe. And so this little area, which is like all Hollanders and, duchies and shit, you would always see a few Krampuses running around, always. But there's always one or two, and that's how it goes. The Christmas is all of the Christmas, the elves and the snowmen and the Santas, but there's always that one Krampus. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Krampus has been around forever, that I know. And from what I understand, there was more just pictures and postcards and kind of little spooky rumors that people would make up for their kids, as if you don't behave, this boogeyman's going to get you thing, rather than a solid mythology about a Krampus, like you would have about my Pukas and a lot of these other characters. So most of what you saw of old European Krampuses was just pictures on postcards of kids or women getting beaten with sticks. And, yeah, so, and eventually, as we, threw a little Disney on Krampus here, eventually he wasn't there anymore. It was just Santa doling out coal. But that little piece of coal is a little remnant of hell from times before, when the kids were a little more rotten, or people weren't quite as afraid of giants and monsters and fairy tales to scare kids and put them in their place a little bit. And that's what it was. If you were a naughty kid and you didn't behave, he'd whip your ass, throw you in a basket, and take you to hell. And there you probably shovel coal. So that's, so people realize that little piece of coal that Santa gives you, that's a little piece of hell. Austria, Germany, all these places. They got festivals in Scotland now, and Germany and Ireland that have been going on for years, I guess. And that's where you see the big to-do on the internet and the telly when you see these big parades. I've been wanting to go to one for years. They're just starting to catch on now. So
catch on over here, right?
Yeah, they're just starting to catch on to the Krampus, And it's funny to say that because, the Krampus movie is like old now almost.
Yeah.
And I remember, that's not exactly correct. My sense of timing isn't good. We've had him for a while now.
But it's also like relatively, it's not that old.
Well, I was playing around.
It feels new to me.
It is new because I was feeling and writing stories about Krampus, thinking, "Geez, this guy needs to come back. He needs his place next to Santa and the Easter Bunny again." And that was a couple years before the Krampus movie, so he caught on really fast. He's like Nirvana. He just, But that's like I said, kids need a beating. So, So I made a big to-do fucking deal about it. With my kid, it was a lot of fun, and she loved Krampus, and so me being the creep that I was, what did I do? I got a bunch of shit from the Krampus movie company that's associated with that film, and I bought her the teddy bear with the removable scalp, and I bought her the angel monster that was on the top of the tree, very heavy, hard to put on top, and bells. And I'm trying to remember what else. Like all these original things from it. And I have them wrapped up for her, which is really neat. So she caught on to it early. And so when I hopefully she doesn't hear this because she'll it'll be out of the bag. But I made up a bag, a Christmas bag. And behind the couch, I put fishing wire. So when she goes out to open her other presents, I would have pulled the wire a little bit and the bag would wiggle. So there would be things alive in it. So I scared the piss out of her, actually. So hopefully that memory translate in a good way as she gets older. But
Yeah.
it really did scare. Yeah, but I pulled that the 1 year on her. So Krampus has been visiting my kid as well as Santa, probably right from the beginning. Yeah, we have a couple Krampus bells on my tree. Yep. So I love Krampus. I can tell the story of my first introduction to Krampus, which was years and years and years and years and years before I had any idea what Krampus was. My Nana was a perfectly darling, not practicing, but Christian-y kind of lady who made a big deal out of Christmas and whatnot. And I would go over to her house, and she had the big silver Christmas tree, and she had all that neat stuff from the 50s. And up in the corner on her hearth sat a little devil. And it was very creepy. It had a wink, it had a plastic face, and it was a pretty good size. And besides for its plastic head, it had a felt body where its knees would come up and fold underneath its arms. So, it looked like a Christmas elf kind of thing, but it was obviously a devil. And I always thought it was the strangest damn thing. I'm like, why does my grandmother have this thing? And time went on and it disappeared, and I ended up finding it again on eBay, and then I bought it. And I said, there's that little devil I remember when I was a kid. And then I looked into, being a dork about it, I looked into the history of it and the brand name of it, which was Kamar, Kamar. And it turns out that it was from a company that made Christmas elves and Christmas decorations, specifically Christmas elves. If you look at old Christmas elves from the 50s and 40s, where my grandmother was from, that's what you see usually, is those little Kamar elves that have their knees folded under their arms. This was exactly like that, but just bigger. And then I finally found it, an old ad for a series of Christmas elves. There were like 6 or 7 of them, and the one at the end, all the rest of them had little pointed hats and looked like Christmas elves, and the one at the end was just a devil. And I was like, well, that's peculiar.
Yeah.
And at this point, it was quite a few years ago, I still hadn't been aware of Krampus. And then somehow that led me to that understanding, as I just put Christmas devil and shit like that on the interweb or whatever I did, and eventually I came up with Krampus. And then I found the time period that she bought those elves was the 50s, I believe. And it was Avon. And, long story short, there was a little bit of German, old European flavor going through that company, that Kamar and Avon, that was putting out these elves, and that was obviously a Krampus. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I don't think people knew back then, or I didn't know, and I didn't know for years what the hell it was. The old timers knew what it was. Yeah, that's as far back as I can remember. Kind of like when I was watching the movie Harvey and got all intrigued by the puka. Same thing, like weird 1950s Americana, some little piece of information about some old piece of mythology just gets thrown into a piece of entertainment. And I'm a little dork sitting around watching movies all the time, and, after watching it for the 80th time, I'm just like, well, what the fuck's a puka? What the fuck's a Krampus, And I guess everybody else is doing the same. But so far, I like Krampus, and I like the movie. I like our interpretation of it. It was a lot of fun. And that director's the shit, man. He did Trick or Treat, which you love. And he did the only good new Godzilla movie, which was King of the Monsters.
Okay.
Yeah, he was good. Did you notice all the movies kind of sucked since then?
I didn't know that he did all 3 of those movies.
There's He might have done one or two other movies that were solely his project, and I'm sitting here talking about somebody I can't remember, but he's some fucking Japanese guy with I don't know can't remember those words. But the three movies that I know that were primarily his project were Krampus, Trick or Treat, and King of the Monsters, the Godzilla movie, before all the Kong stuff. And all of those were delightful. They just had a way about them. And yeah, he was good. I hope he stops taking all that money and gets down to being creative again and take control of those projects. Because Krampus was lovely. It was fun. Even my family likes it.
Trick or Treat and Krampus, I like those two movies for the same reason.
Yep.
Which is that the horror stems from people not being in the spirit of the holiday.
I love it. Yeah.
And that's what makes a good holiday themed horror movie is when you're betraying the holiday.
Yep.
The kid smashing the pumpkins, or the kid ripping up his letter to Santa and throwing it out the window.
And I love how there's, at the end of the film, he feels like he's going to escape it once or twice. He wakes up from the dream, but it ends up being a dream again. And in the end, he's just fucking stuck in snow globe. But that's it. So, yeah, that is fun. But again, that is what Krampus is all about. It's not supposed to be nice. It's supposed to scare you. Let's put those kids in line. And I hope it does.
And there's no going back.
Nope. Well, that's the Christian perception, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're going to hell, and that's it. You're done. Whatever works. Is that what we say?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's all right by me.
No, the new job has given me a new appreciation of hell.
Yeah.
The flames what is it? The flames that burn but do not consume.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well, those duchies, you are your own little Krampus, I think.
I guess
I think
so.
of you that way. So I appreciate that. And I'm thrilled every time you come over and tell me about your job and all the fatties that didn't quite burn down, or it's a perfect job for a comedian.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you need a Krampus, if you need a culture that are a bunch of pussified little fucking simps, you need comedians with black, dark humor to come out and say things that make them cry until they stop being pansy asses. So, Albert, you continue to roast up those folks, and you're a stand-up comedian sometimes. I want you to take it right on stage and scare the fuck out of them.
I already probably have a good 5 minutes, 10 minutes that I would just be weird, good. And they'd either laugh or not.
Hey, let me tell you guys what's going on here, because Albert just got a job because he's moving up here to Cresco with us, weird Cresco folks, and the fucker walked in on a funeral service job. I mean, you don't do that shit. These things are family-owned projects. So now he is in charge of the crematorium. Your lovely narrator here takes him in, throws him in the incinerator, burns them up, shovels them up, puts them in cute little containers, and sends them off to their loved ones.
And it's crushes them in between.
Oh, yeah, Corpse Grinder.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, the movie Corpse Grinder is not complete fiction. It's based on, position. Somebody has to grind the bones.
Yeah.
Like, you got this gig right before the winter. You're a little spooked yourself, and you don't fetishize anything until it terrifies you first. And by the time spring rolls around and you want to get out there and raise a few eyebrows, you're gonna have a load. It's great.
By then, I'll probably have a bunch of new stories too.
I'm telling you, this year, I don't know what it is. I'm content. For the first time in my life, I don't even know what to do with myself. Krampus is back. He really is. So I would love to fuck off to Europe someday and see a real Krampus fest. I'd love to. Matter of fact, I wrote my puka book, and I'd like to take it out to Ireland, where they have puka festivals too. They have all kinds of neat stuff like that.
That would be the thing to do.
And I would love to do that. So So if anybody wants to know what a puka is, I got a book called Puka on Amazon there. Hey, yeah, I can throw a few pitches. I have a book called Puka. It's a children's book on Amazon with the name Mike Strunk. Or if you want to know what Krampus is, I also make videos. So if you put Mike Strunk in the YouTube and then put For Love of Krampus, you'll see a neat little barrage of things I made out of different music and different movies and it has the parades and everything. It's kind of fun.
I could put those links in the thing.
All right. Every year I play it for my kid because right at the end of the film I have a picture of me with white eyes and horns, and I have my kid when she was real little in a basket, and I have a stick, and yeah, so. Black Christmas is
You showed me one from the 70s. Is that Black Christmas?
Yeah. And
with the girls in the house?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I am a person who loves horror movies and takes all serial killers and slashers off my list. I like spooks, I like demons, I like ghosts. I get bored by serial killers. I don't need to see any more Jason movies or anything like that. The first one's all right. Black Christmas is kind of one of those exceptions. Okay. I don't think it's too supernatural, and it is about a whack job, but it's very good. Yeah, I kind of make an exception to that one. So I really do like Black Christmas. And what else do I like? I'm trying to remember what the scariest thing is. Christmas. It's not even a Christmas movie, and I'm trying to remember what it was. It's this crazy movie that I can't remember where a kid is just sitting in his living room and all of these Santa Clauses with creepy like faces just come into his house, and then next thing you know there's 100 creepy Santas just staring at him. Creepiest damn thing. I wish I could remember what movie that was. City of Lost Children, maybe? It's one of those movies. That's like the creepiest Christmas scene I've ever seen. If you want to watch the Twilight Zone episode with Art Carney, is fantastic.
Yeah.
So just put in Art Carney Christmas Twilight Zone. Krampus is lovely. There's another one. I think it's called Christmas Horror Story, and I really like it. And it has some great lines by William Shatner, who I also love. He's a fellow asshole that I think is a lot of fun. And he's like some kind of DJ or radio announcer in that movie. And I like it. The movie is fun. It's much more, I don't know, like boyish or something. Mm-hmm. You know, like I don't know how to explain it. A little more action and fighting and, you know, than I like. I don't generally like that kind of thing. So Christmas Horror Story is cool, but you have to be in the right mood for it. And the Krampus, the Santa Claus is like a big tough biker like guy. And
yeah,
he's really
I've seen that one. Biker Santa.
Oh, you watched that one?
You show me that one.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely not as good as Krampus, but it's fun. And Fat Man. It's not a horror story.
Fat Man is fantastic.
Everybody must see Fat Man.
Yeah.
It's good. It's horror enough. Just do it.
I could watch that movie over and over.
That right now is probably the most recent Christmas staple for me is Fat Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a blast. I heard there was this one called Grandpa for Christmas. I don't know anything about that one.
That hits my nostalgia bone.
Yeah, this is a personal thing. Yeah. Nobody watches this dumb shit but Albert.
No.
Here, quick.
Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ernest Borgnine, Jamie Farr. They just took him and shoved him in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
And so you have that, and then put me at my grandmother's house watching it for the first time with her.
Yeah.
Because she was the typical grandma who Hallmark was just on 24/7 for her. And it just so happened it's Christmas, but the channel never changed except for her soaps.
Well, I'll have to tell you that I would
one.
be making fun of you and calling you a ridiculous dork. But the truth being told, I probably have to watch it myself because I love Ernest Borgnine. So that's enough reason to watch
Bring it over. They made like 50 copies on DVD,
Yep,
and I managed to dig one up.
Well, I'm guilty. I took my mother to see Olivia Newton-John before she croaked out in Penn Peak or something. And my mother, she watches Hallmark Christmas movies all year round, just like a little crazy lady. And I'm guilty of throwing one or two of them on there just because Olivia Newton-John. I watched a really stupid one where Olivia Newton-John was a mannequin, I think. Yeah, some kid, he goes into a department store. He's like, I like her. So, of course, his mother's for shit. And so she comes to the door and becomes this Mary Poppins, like, cheesy 80s Hallmark. That was fun. And she sings pretty.
The mannequin?
Yeah. So it became, yeah. Okay. And at the end, I had to go back to the store. And everybody's crying like the fucking snowman melting. It's that bag again. So, okay, here it is. People want to know what's up. I know everything. So I'll tell you what Christmas movies are great and which ones suck. It's very simple. All Rankin and Bass, all of it is lovely. I can't get enough of it. Charlie Brown's the shit. The Grinch is lovely. Christmas Vacation can eat my shorts. I fucking hate that movie.
What about it?
What about it? Because everybody loves it, and then they keep putting it on, and then I have to sit there through it.
There's another Christmas.
The Christmas Story sucks too.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Sticking their fucking tongue on it. All those. I hate those movies. I hate Home Alone. I don't like that shit. So that's just me, But I'm a buzzkill. I don't like sitting with the Olympics and watching that stupid shit. And I'll tell you, it's the holiday has passed, but I'm going to take this moment to tell you that there is nothing on earth that is television related that is as loathsome and disgusting and just fucking horrid than the Thanksgiving Day dog show. There is nothing that pisses me off more. Because when I watch people looking up these fucking animals' asses and sticking their fucking fingers in their mouths and shit, by the time I watch 3 hours of that shit, I don't want to even touch a Thanksgiving dinner. It literally puts me off my appetite. There's nothing I hate worse. And I don't know where it came from. For years and years and years, we had all kinds of neat stuff. We had Godzilla and King Kong movies. We had football games. We had Rankin and Bass fucking cartoons. We watched Scrooge, every version of it, from the black and whites to the modern ones. And suddenly, the parade goes off and these motherfucking dogs come up and they start like picking their asses and playing with their gums. I absolutely hate it because my other, she likes it. And I just can't stand it. I don't know. It literally does make me lose my appetite. Not 1 hour, but 2, but 3 hours.
It's long. It goes and goes.
So, man, fuck you dog show people, man. I'm into, Mary Poppins or Texas Chainsaw, one extreme or the other.
Yeah.
And you bring them together, and it's great, Anything Tim Burton, which I know you love. So.
Yep. Nightmare Before Christmas is the one that I'll hide from if I can.
You need not be a part of that. Yeah. Well, I sit with you and you're a real dude. You like real stuff. You like cars. You like people. You like Mondo and Ghetto and fantasy. I that's not your bag, and I can sit there and do the Lords of the Rings and things like that, and I can't imagine you doing it. But for me, fairy tales, as far as this medium of film and everything goes, there isn't anyone right now who's done more to re-energize or rejuvenate this idea of mythology, especially holiday mythology, more than Tim Burton. In other words, all the other movies have been done over and over again every 10 years, King Kong and Titanic or whatever else. This guy, from Edward Scissorhands to Big Fish to Nightmare Before Christmas, all those, he's brought fairy tales and mythology and stuff back into the culture. So, not to smack you in the face with things you don't like, but I don't think that there's anyone on the scene right now that's more important than Tim Burton. He's number one as far as... So Nightmare Before Christmas is not my favorite Tim Burton movie, really. It's not even my favorite animated horror movie. I probably would prefer Coraline. It's more...
See, that one I really like.
I really like that one too. But Nightmare Before Christmas is the most important film of our time.
I could see that.
Because
I get it.
I can't even explain it to you, but before that moment, and I was working at a video store when that happened. As a matter of fact, it's kind of fun to talk about it.
Okay.
I worked at a place called Vigi Videos out in Broadsville, and Nightmare Before Christmas just came out. It just got on the shelf. People were standing in line to see it, and they were also standing in line outside protesting it from the local church. They didn't give two fucks about the red room full of Edward Penis Hands in the other room. But Nightmare Before Christmas, they didn't want anything to do with Halloween being associated with Christmas. That's why that shit is so important, in a sense. Before Nightmare Before Christmas, Halloween was cool. Like Kiss. And Christmas was corny. Amongst the hip kids. Or, on the other hand, Christmas was lovely by the churchies, and Halloween was the devil. That was the splicing. All these old arguments just went out the door, and the next generation after that, suddenly Halloween and Christmas were cool, and everybody was having a big party. And I remember playing the record soundtrack to Nightmare Before Christmas. She's like marching around the room. It's like, it's not even for us, it's for them, for kids. It's just fantastic. Nightmare Before Christmas to me is the most important film if you're a person who thinks it's important to infuse the culture with fairy tales and magic and holiday spirit and things like that. That's the shit right there. And speaking of Christmas movies, there's nothing that I like or my family likes better, immediate family, than Scrooge, the 1970s Albert Finney musical adaptation of a Christmas Carol. That's as good as it gets for me. That's a great film. But, it's like Chitty Bang Bang and things. You have to like musicals.
Right.
But to me, if you put Chitty Bang Bang and Mary Poppins and Scrooge, all three of them, they have the same quality. They're just great fucking Christmas musical movies. And, yeah. So that's good. Scrooge is probably my favorite Christmas movie. The Albert Finney musical. Yeah. And now that is kind of spooky. Oh, another one that I really love to watch, and they've hardly ever made, it's just curious, it's just interesting and a little bizarre, and I like weird shit. There's another Charles Dickens story, and I'm hoping I can think of the title of it. I think it might have just been called The Bells. And it's another weird, spooky Charles Dickens story. And there is one weird group of animators that put out The Bells. I hope that's the right title. And you can see it if you look through the YouTube or something. You have to find... It looks, California Raisins. It looks like that kind of animation. So that's really neat. Some weird story about a guy who is an old man but an errand boy between rich and I don't know. He has some kind of communication with demons that are in these Christmas bells in a church, and it's weird. Yeah, so there, let that entice you.
Well, I'll tell you something.
Yeah, what?
Listening to your explanation on Nightmare Before Christmas, I didn't know any of that, and now I'm a little bit more intrigued about that movie.
You don't even have to see it to be intrigued in the way that, you know what I mean? Like I said, just imagine yourself as a little kid now. Like I'm into integration, integral thinking and theory, and my opinion, but in my own little studies and my own little ideas, integral thinking, when it's applied to culture, which there are some writers out there that have done that recently. A weird guy. I'm not going to go there. Every so many generations, the problems that the culture has, which always seem to divide to two sides. We're either this way or we're that way. After generations and generations and generations of these morons screaming back and forth over these issues, very often non-issues, there comes a time where it comes to a head, and it's war. And then through that conflict and through that rage and craziness, just like throwing all these races and people and things at New York City, and just watching how it develops into something civil, there's a time of integration. That's where I think we are, religiously and culturally and everything else. I think everybody is coming up to the fact that it's time to stop fighting over these issues, and you need to integrate.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Planet Shivers podcast. Thank you, Mike Strunk, for coming on. This was a lot of fun to sit and chat with him. And like I said before, in this Ragtag podcast, my favorite episodes are the ones where I forget I'm recording and the conversation is fun. And I don't even remember the microphone is there. And this was another one of those. They're becoming more frequent, which is a good thing. I also want to say to everybody who's made it this far in the podcast, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays no matter what you're celebrating. This time of year, I always think about my mother, who's gone now 14 years. Jackie is always heavy on my mind, especially around the holidays, but it's always happy memories and funny memories. Her and I, man, we had a lot of laughs together, really. And one day I want to tell all those stories on this show. In the meantime, you can find this episode and all the other episodes of the Planet Shivers podcast on all major podcast platforms and YouTube with some special video. Until next time, and especially this time of year, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else.